Hi guys, welcome to our 15th webinar. We've come a long way. Today we are going to discuss critical reasoning weekend questions. So ideally what I would like to do is take one webinar of each CR question type so that we can deep dive into it, and I can show you that the concepts that we've discussed in the module and in the video as well, how they are applied on the official questions and how they work, right? So normally we take LSAT or GMAT official type of questions in our webinar. So I think that works. All right. Now, before I start today's webinar, let me just talk about some additions that we've made to the platform. So your practice questions, we have put them in study mode as well as in a PDF, where the question will be there and right under it on the next page will be the answer, will be the solution. The reason is that quite a few of our questions are really tricky, right? There are three phases of practicing for, let's say, learning for a test. You have the learn, you have the practice, and you have the testing phase, right? Now, these practice questions are not just the practice phase, they are a part of the learning phase as well, because we discussed quite a few concepts, and they are tricky sometimes. You might even end up putting in half an hour on one question. That's also certainly possible. So that is why there is no point in timing yourself on it. And also I would like to give the solution right along with the practice question, so that you can solve the question. If you're unable to get the answer, even after investing quite a bit of time, you can check out the solution, go through it, understand, check back, look at the question again, etc. So basically, you can do those questions at your own pace, and this is the reason why we have added all the questions in the study mode as well. Of course, practice mode is available as well. So in case you would prefer to take that, where you go one question after another and then look at the solutions at the end, that is also available, certainly. Yeah, and another thing we're going to be doing is we will be adding it, and I think we should be the first one should come up this weekend. We'll be adding tests of 10 questions each. So I'm going to start with data sufficiency. Now, these are going to be a part of, let's say, practice and testing combined. So there will be a mix of questions. We'll start with relatively easy questions so that you can see how well you've understood the topic, etc. Right? Okay, so let's start today's webinar. I'll share my screen with you and we'll look at the first critical reasoning weekend question. Now, before you try the question, I'll talk a little bit about what exactly do you need to keep in mind in weekend questions. I'm guessing you would have gone through the module and through the video as well. So you know that you have to look at the conclusion, right? You have to separate out the conclusion, and then that is what you have to weaken, just like we do in strength in question as well, that you have to separate out the conclusion and strengthen that, right? That's point one. Then another thing, of course, try and think of a debate going on, as I suggest that when I'm looking at a weekend question and I am in the opposition team. So one team has given their opinion on a certain topic and I'm in the opposition team, and now I have to give a new point which is against their opinion, right? I cannot say that the facts that they have given, that is the premises, they are false. I have to assume that the facts that they are giving are true, but I have to give a new additional fact which is against what their opinion, what they are suggesting or what they are proposing, etc., whatever. Right? So keep these two things in mind and then look at the first weekend question that we have here. All right. I'll give you a couple of minutes. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, let me just tell you that normally the way we run the webinars is that I'll give you a question, I'll give you a couple of minutes to solve it, then we'll discuss the question together, and I'll give you about 30 seconds in case you have any question, any queries, etc. Go ahead and ask, and then we'll go on to the next question. You can share your answers in Q&A, which has been enabled in case you have got one. All right, that's good. Yeah. Manoj, think again. Okay, let's look at it together. It is widely assumed that people need to engage in intellectual activities such as solving crossword puzzles or mathematics problems in order to maintain mental sharpness as they age. Okay, now this is some kind of a context given to us, right? It is widely assumed. So he's just talking about what people assume, that they need to engage in intellectual activities such as this and this to maintain mental sharpness. Okay. In fact, however, simply talking to other people, that is participating in social interaction, which engages many mental and perceptual skills, suffices. What is this statement? In fact, however, if you do this, then this is sufficient. This is what the author's opinion is. This is what he is telling us, right? This is what he wants to convey to us. Because look at the next sentence. Evidence to this effect comes from a study showing that. So then this thing is going to be, of course, evidence. So this is going to be a premise. Hence, we know we have separated out our conclusion. What is our conclusion? The second sentence, that simply talking to other people suffices. Suffices for what? To maintain mental sharpness, right? So this is going to be our conclusion. The author wants to tell us that just talking to other people, it is sufficient to maintain mental sharpness, mental skills, right? So this is our conclusion, and this is what we have to weaken. So we have to, we have to seriously weaken this, right? Okay. Now, right. So now here, evidence to this effect, this is the premise that he gives us, comes from a study showing that the more social contact people report, the better their mental skills. So the first thing that should come to your mind when you read this, and the first thing that comes to my mind when I read this as well, what is that? That he's giving me correlation, right? He's not giving me causation. In the conclusion, he's saying talking is sufficient to maintain mental sharpness. So he's saying that social interaction, basically, it is enough for mental sharpness. So then in case you maintain social interactions, then, your brain will be sharp. But over here, he's only giving the data that he's giving us is from a study which shows that if people have more social contact, then they have better mental skills. But does that mean that social contact leads to better mental skills? Look, the first thing that comes to my mind is, what if, people who have better mental skills, the ones who are in control of their thoughts, they are the ones who actually go and socialize with people. That the ones who are facing mental problems, they don't really go and socialize, right? So it could be the way around as well, isn't it? So, this makes me think of correlation versus causation. The two appear together doesn't necessarily mean that one causes the other. Okay. Now, which of the following, if true, most seriously weakens the force of the evidence? Okay. Now, let's look at option A. As people grow older, they are often advised to keep exercising their physical and mental capabilities or capacities in order to maintain or improve them. Now, you know, he's just telling us something that, let's say, people are advised or recommended. That doesn't really give us any proof, right? There is no fact over here. So anyway, this cannot be our answer. Look, your answer has to be a fact. It has to be data, which in strengthened questions supports your conclusion, or in weakened questions, it is against your conclusion, right? Now, people are advised doesn't really mean anything, right? Who advises them? Is the advice valid? We don't know anything. So certainly that this cannot be an answer. Look at option B. Many medical conditions and treatments that adversely affect a person's mental sharpness also tend to increase that person's social isolation. Now, look at that. What does it say? That there is, when we have correlation versus causation, when we have A and B appear together, right? And then we are concluding that A causes B. We've discussed this in a module as well, that what can weaken it? One way in which you can weaken it is that no, instead B causes A. Or you can weaken it by saying C causes both A and B, right? So then over here, what do you get? You get many medical conditions. This is your C. He's saying that they can cause both the things. They affect a person's mental sharpness also, and they tend to increase social isolation also. So he's saying basically that medical conditions, many medical conditions could be responsible for the correlation that you are seeing, because medical conditions are causing both of them. And that is why they're appearing together. So then this is weakening our conclusion that actually A is causing B. That was our conclusion. That social interactions, it is sufficient for mental sharpness. All right. So then this certainly looks like a good answer, but we do have to go through the other options as well. So let's go through them. Many people are proficient both in social interactions and in solving mathematical problems. Okay, this really has nothing to do with anything, isn't it? Many people are good at both, fine. Now, how are mathematical problems related to mental skills anyway? That we don't really know. And if there are people who are proficient in both, doesn't necessarily mean that one is causing the other or one is not causing the other, etc. Right? So then this is also not our answer. Okay, look at D. The study did not itself collect data, but analyze data bearing on the issue from prior studies. Now, does this mean that the data is not valid, that the data is not relevant? Of course not. Right? He's just saying that the data was taken from previous studies. He's not saying that their data was not correct. So anyway, then we're not doubting the study then, because we're not given that the data was not correct. So again, this is not the answer. It doesn't weaken our conclusion. Look at E. The tasks evaluating mental sharpness for which data were compiled by the study were more akin to mathematics problems than to conversation. Okay, now, this is one option where people get a little confused and a little unhappy about it, and they feel that it is related to the conclusion and that this could be the answer. But then notice what this option means, what exactly it means. Look, so they are saying that in the study they check how much social interaction people are having, right? And also their mental skills. Now, for example, in the study, in case people had the researchers had judged how much of mental skills people have based just on their language skills, for example. How clearly are their thoughts and how well do they understand other people, etc. In case mental skills were measured through that, then I would kind of worry whether the study is valid or not, right? Because you are saying that social skills and mental skills are appearing together, but hey, the way you are measuring the mental skills is pretty much what social skills encourages, right? So a socially skilled person is going to have great language skills as well, isn't it? He is going to be able to understand other people well, etc. Now, if you are measuring the mental skills based on those criteria, then it's no surprise that you found that the two appear together. But in case, let's say you are measuring mental skills based on, let's say, how the person performs in math as well, how well the person solves puzzles also, right? And then you found that the two were related, then I would say, hey, the study makes sense then, isn't it? Mental skills are a lot of different skills together. And in case you are measuring these skills which are not directly related to social interaction as well, then it makes a lot of sense in case we find that the people who are good at social skills actually are good at mathematics as well, etc. Then I would say, well, there does seem to be some kind of causation correlation. So if anything, this option just is supporting our conclusion a little more. It's just making our study a little more valid, right? So it's certainly not a weak number, right? So of course, then our correct answer is B.